YouTube, how we doing? Today we're going into another video where we're going to be talking about 10 of the underrated free agents in this class. Now, underrated doesn't necessarily mean that they're not a name that we know of or anything. It's just somebody that really hasn't been getting too much buzz as much as I've seen. And some guys that have a lot of fits in this NFL and a lot of teams that should be going after them. So basically how I'm going to have it is I'm going to tell you who the player is. I'm going to tell you the teams that are the best for them, that are good for them, and some sneaky teams that might be looking at them, and also give them a price range of where I think they will. But of course, go ahead and follow me on Twitter, Instagram. Check out the big board. It's in the comment section below. Subscribe if you're new. Comment down below your favorite team, who you want on your team in free agency, and leave a like. This is going to be an exciting time. You know, the combine's coming up, draft's coming up, free agency. So stick around for this channel. We're going to be uploading, you know, as much daily as possible. So going into our first player here, Cordarrelle Patterson. It's a guy who had a complete resurgence. If there was a most improved player award, it would have went to Cordarrelle Patterson without a doubt. This guy had an amazing year, and if you're a fantasy owner, you reap the benefits of Cordarrelle Patterson. This guy was the one shining spot on this offense as Kyle Pitts was getting double and triple teamed and Ridley was not there. It was just a rough season for the Falcons, and they still were competing, a lot due to the fact that Cordarrelle Patterson was such an amazing dual threat and really showed his ability at the running back position. Two teams I have top for him is staying with the Atlanta Falcons. You know, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. You know, I'm looking for a $5 to $8 million range for Cordarrelle Patterson, maybe a 2-year deal, $16 million the most, you know. But yeah, the Falcons, I mean, it worked so well for them. Why not keep that same offense, except be able to add some more weapons, hopefully, to that receiving core and get this offense to be a little bit more, you know, intricate and be able to do more than just hand it off to Cordarrelle, throw it to Cordarrelle, and hope Pitts can get open. And then another team that I think is the best fit for him is the Arizona Cardinals. The air raid offense that Cliff Kingsbury runs, it's just perfect for Cordarrelle, a guy who can run the football very well, as we saw James Conner lead this backfield. And really, this is just a big upgrade for Chase Edmonds, and you'd be spending pretty similar money to what I'd expect Edmonds to be getting. So based off of that, get a guy who is looking like an elite player at that position. It would be perfect for the spread offense as a receiving back. Some teams that I like that Cordarrelle Patterson could definitely fit on that are good fits. Kansas City, they wanted Clyde Edwards-Helaire to pan out. He looks like he may not get to that potential. But Jerick McKinnon, Darrell Williams, they have a type, and that's a very similar type to what the Cardinals are running. They want that receiving back, a guy who can kind of do it all in the backfield. Cordarrelle is definitely that. The 49ers, they ran Deebo Samuel at running back a ton, so letting Cordarrelle Patterson split snaps with Elijah Mitchell and also being able to shade him out to the wideout position, I think that Kyle Shanahan would have a blast with such a weapon in Cordarrelle Patterson. And Tennessee, this is another one where I think he's just such a good fit because this team needs help at the receiving core, but also, you know, Derrick Henry has now had an injury, and we were waiting for something like this to happen. It hadn't happened in a long time. I think now's the time where you don't give Derrick Henry the workload that he has always had. So letting Cordarrelle Patterson get maybe 10 carries a game, but also be able to line up at wideout, it kind of gets the best of both worlds for a team like Tennessee who, you know, can definitely upgrade with their weapons. And then some sneaky teams here, Buccaneers, you know, Fournette's a free agent, Rojo's a free agent. We know of all the free agents in Tampa Bay. Getting a guy like Cordarrelle could really just help out that team. New York, I really like the fact that Cordarrelle could add to Michael Carter in that backfield and, again, just give Zach Wilson some more weapons. I think that would be a fun offense for him to go into. And, you know, the money would be able to be paid from the Jets because they have a lot of cap space. The Giants, it's, again, another sneaky one where, you know, him and Saquon could definitely complement each other very well, as it seems like Devontae Booker's probably going to be on the way out. The only problem is, you know, the cap situation. How much room do they have? And when they do have room, is a guy like Cordarrelle Patterson going to be, you know, the guy? But when I look at the offense and, you know, Dable and Kafka, I think that Cordarrelle being that weapon, him, Tony, Saquon, I think that this would make for some amazing play calls and some things we've never seen before. And last but not least, Detroit Lions, a team that just needs talent all around. DeAndre Swift is a very good pass-catching back, but he's not the greatest at it. And Jamal Williams, you know, he's pretty solid at it as well, but he's a free agent. Adding Cordarrelle Patterson, again, gets you somebody who can line up out wide, but also can help you out in that running game, especially, you know, with Swift dealing with injuries in his career. Going over to the only quarterback on the list, and that is Marcus Mariota. His best fit is Washington, and it's the only fit that I have in the best category, simply because I think Mariota at this point is a starting caliber quarterback. I have his range about $8 to $15 million a year. A 2-year, $30 million deal for Mariota to a team like Washington would not be bad in my opinion. The reason I like Washington the most is because they run that. I think he does everything Heineke does, but a step above that. And that's really what they need. I think that he's just a little bit better at pretty much all the things. But he's a dual threat. We've seen him play a lot of wildcat snaps for the Raiders. And I think it's his chance to get back to a starting role in the NFL, as he wasn't necessarily a horrible starter in the NFL, but Tannehill really was that better guy. Going over to the good category, I have the Pittsburgh Steelers. Pittsburgh, New Orleans, and Tampa Bay, they all need quarterbacks. That's why they're in the good tier. It's just a matter of which team is going to actually want Mariota to be their starter, who's going for the veteran, even like higher in age, who's going for the young rookies. So that's why I have them in the good category, where Washington, I feel like they are that quarterback away from being competitive in the division again. And going into the sneaky division, the Falcons with Matt Ryan, it's a big contract. He should be coming back. If he decides to retire or something, I think Mariota could be somebody that could fill in. And also, Mariota is a lot younger. It's about 8 years, 9 years difference between him and Matt Ryan. So becoming the backup for Matt Ryan can really help switch the identity of the team and possibly create a successor, but also I think bridge from Matt Ryan to your successor. The Lions, another one where personally I don't believe in it, but if you're trying to move on from Jared Goff, a guy like Marcus Mariota might be somebody who can add a lot more to the offense just because of his dual threat ability. So if that's something they're trying to go into a direction, I think that would be good. Or if you just want to bring in Mariota for quarterback competition and kind of just split the snaps and see who is going to prevail, that wouldn't be bad as well. And then last but not least, I have him going back to the Titans as a sneaky one. Tannehill has a big contract, and it's possible that they go to move off of it, especially after his performance in the playoffs. But this is a team that's a top team in the NFL, so it would be interesting to see if they really did move off of Tannehill. But if they did, I think bringing a reunion of Marcus Mariota back to Tennessee with this loaded offense, A.J. Brown and Henry and Julio and company, I just think that would be perfect for a guy like Mariota. Going over to Leighton Vander Esch out of the Cowboys, I have him getting around $6 to $10 million a year. A lot of that has to do with his injuries, but this is somebody where if he's healthy and can produce, he's going to produce at a high level. Have the Bengals and the Broncos as his best fits. The Broncos are losing 3 interior linebackers, and I really do think that's where Leighton Vander Esch needs to play in that 3-4 system on the inside, because we've seen his block shedding is not what compared to everyone else that on his team has been, and I really like him in that coverage stance. So getting Vander Esch to a team like Denver would be awesome. And then Cincinnati, linebacker and offensive line is pretty much their biggest need. So erasing some of that, having as much money as they have, getting a guy like Vander Esch to add to this defense who really looked very solid throughout their playoff run. I just really would like to see that for Leighton Vander Esch and for the Bengals. Some good fits. I have the Jets. Jets definitely need some linebacker help. So spending some money on a guy like Vander Esch, trying to get as much out of him as you can with a young team, I think that would be very solid for them. He could pair alongside C.J. Mosley and do a lot for this Jets team. You look over to Cleveland Browns, another team that's just lacking that interior linebacker help. He could fit in there. And Miami, another team where they're not necessarily lacking linebacker help, but a lot of free agents are entering this year. And definitely I think Vander Esch would be an upgrade over a lot of guys on that team as well. So he would be able to step in there and do a ton of work. And then some sneaky teams here, the Eagles, going to a division rival, not necessarily heard of all the time, but does happen. I really do like that fit for him, though, because the Eagles have neglected linebacker for a ton. So getting a guy who really can pretty much do it all if he stays healthy, I think would be awesome. And, get a leg up on your division rival. The Patriots are just a factory of taking guys who are getting given up on and turning them into studs, and I think that would be perfect for Vander Esch, especially with Hightower being a free agent, Van Noy looking like he might be a cap casualty. And then last but not least, the Lions, another team where they didn't really have great linebackers to begin with, but their best one, in my opinion, Anzalone, he's a free agent. They just have some guys that they definitely need to look at if it's worth re-signing. And for the price you're going to pay Anzalone, you might as well get a guy like Vander Esch who really has a lot more upside, in my opinion. Going to the oldest player on this list, as far as I'm concerned, and that is Duane Brown, a stud left tackle still to this day. Really can play both sides, but I have him getting about $8 to $12 million. It's probably just going to be one-year deals for the rest of his career because he's in his late 30s. Best fit for me, I have 2. I got the Steelers and the Panthers up there. Steelers just did not get good tackle play from their young offensive line. So getting a guy like this in Duane Brown, paying him the money that he, has rightfully earned, I think that would help out a ton for the Steelers offense, whether they go with a rookie quarterback, they get a veteran like a Jimmy G or a Mariota, or if they go with a rookie quarterback as well. There's a lot of things that they could do. Mason Rudolph and Haskins are also on the roster. And the Panthers' offensive line is just a travesty right now, and you just need to get as much help as you can, so a veteran like this can help bridge you a year or two to let guys develop, Brady Christensen, etc. Some good fits. The Colts, if they, Eric Fisher is not on the team after the season, then Duane Brown can refill what Eric Fisher did and just be an old tackle to put a Band-Aid on that left tackle position, but play it at an elite level while the rest of the line is young and continues to produce. Staying in Seattle is an option. I think that the only way that would be the case is if, Russell Wilson and company stay. But if they're trying to retool and rebuild, I don't see Duane Brown staying. And then the Ravens are another team where they've tried to plug and play some older guys and stuff, and it just hasn't really worked out. Protect Lamar Jackson as much as you can. Duane Brown can do that. And some sneaky ones. I have the Kansas City Chiefs, another team where, if they let a guy like Orlando Brown hit the free agent market, or, any of the guys that really are on this team, Duane Brown can come in there and, again, just be that Band-Aid and keep this team competitive for at least that one more year. The Rams, if Whitworth retires, which I really do think he should go out on top, Duane Brown can hop in and fill that role, I think, to a T. And then last but not least, the Chargers. Rashawn Slater is a monster, but they need another tackle, and they need another tackle bad. So pairing Duane Brown would help you, maybe develop a tackle behind Brown, but still create one of the best tandems in Brown and Slater in the NFL. Now going over to the tight end position, Eric Ebron, a guy who a couple years ago was a touchdown machine for Indianapolis and really hasn't been that since then. But there's a couple places I really like for him. I have him getting about $4 to $8 million a year, depending on the team need and who it is. The best fits I have for him are the Chargers and the Giants, man. The Giants, Evan Ingram's going to be a free agent. Kyle Rudolph is probably going to be cut for the amount of money he's due. And just with that money alone, you can easily pay Eric Ebron. You're going to pay Eric Ebron probably the same contract that Kyle Rudolph got last year, but he's just a guy who can be a vertical threat and a red zone threat, which is something that Daniel Jones has desperately needed, is just a reliable tight end who can make a play, get downfield, and really just be a presence in that red zone. And this is a team that does not score a lot. And then for the Chargers, this is one of the most high-flying offenses in the league. Let's get some more weapons there other than just Keenan Allen and Mike Williams. And Mike Williams a free agent, and so is Jared Cook, and he's older. So getting a little bit younger with Eric Ebron, I think that's a really good pickup for the Chargers. Some good signs is Tennessee Titans, another team that, they ran out there with Anthony Ferguson. They knew tight end was a weak spot when they lost Jonnu Smith, and they didn't address it, and it definitely showed. This team needed some more weapons. When A.J. Brown and Julio were out, when Derrick Henry was out, this team was very hard to watch on the offensive side of the ball. Eric Ebron is just going to be a solid, cheap option to fill that role. Arizona Cardinals, if they're not going to get Zach Ertz, I think a cheaper guy who can do a lot of what Ertz can, just not at the same exact level, is Eric Ebron, so I like that a lot for them. The Jets, this can be in addition to a Dalton Schultz or one of those signings, or if they strike out on Dalton Schultz or he ends up getting franchise tagged or whatever it may be, I think Ebron's a good consolation prize for you to take him and solidify one tight end and still go into the draft and try and get a McBride or somebody as well. And then some sneaky spots. Cincinnati, if Uzama's gone. Indianapolis going back there, especially with Doyle possibly being a cap casualty, Mo Alley Cox being a free agent. Then you look at Tampa Bay. O.J. Howard's a free agent. Gronk is probably going to retire, but is also a free agent, so Ebron can step in there. And then Washington, Logan Thomas, although he has a big deal, he showed some injuries. I think you can run 2 tight end sets, and possibly Logan Thomas, that contract could end up being a little bit hurtful in these next few years if they don't tend to like what Logan Thomas is producing. Next up, we have Anthony Averett out of Baltimore. This is a guy who I think of as the James Bradberry of this class, where people might not know how good of a corner he really is, but he's going to get paid the right amount, and he's going to show. And I really do think that. I think that he'll be a CB1 for a team, and one of these two teams should really pay that $10 to $15 million to him, and that is the Philadelphia Eagles and the Arizona Cardinals. The Eagles and Cardinals both have that similar thing where they have very good front sevens, but their secondary just can't hold up a lot of times. Marco Wilson, there for Steven Nelson had a good year for the Eagles, but it's just never up to par. So a guy like Anthony Averett can be there and really just revamp that defense. And we saw it with the Giants where the secondary was very lackluster, and then Bradbury came in and had an amazing year after his signing when a lot of people thought initially it was an overpay. So I really do see Anthony Averett as a guy like that. 49ers are a good team to go as well. They could just always use secondary help, although they do have some good corners now. Denver, they're looking at corner possibly in the draft, but you can pair a guy like Averett with the amount of money that they have, pair him with Surtain, and you possibly can wait on a corner. You will have to take him in the first round. Patriots are known for just transforming corners into like all-pro talents. They did it with Gilmore. J.C. Jackson is there, and now J.C. Jackson's a free agent. Gilmore's a free agent, and he was on, obviously, Carolina at the end of the year. So pair Averett with Jonathan Jones and still have one of the best secondaries in the class or in the NFL. Some sneaky ones, Miami, they just have a lot of money. So to pair a guy like Averett with Byron Jones, Xavier Howard, I mean, this is just be an awesome defense to watch. Jacksonville, Shaq Barrett getting him a partner in crime with the money that they have, just retooling this team. Tennessee, they have some young corners in Fulton and Farley, but getting somebody who can just be that solidified number one while the other guys try to become that. And then Seattle just needs some secondary help. They haven't recovered from the Shaq Griffin departure. Going on to the next player, and that is Jadeveon Clowney, which I have as a $10 to $15 million hit, probably a 2-year deal for Clowney. His best two fits for me are Jacksonville and Denver for very similar reasons. They both have edge rushers that are pretty solid already. Bradley Chubb and Josh Allen, respectively. So I like the Jaguars the most. You get Jadeveon Clowney for whatever price it may be. You could pay a little bit more than the other teams can. And then that all of a sudden opens up that first overall pick to go and take that offensive lineman, because now you have a partner in crime for Josh Allen and in one of the best power rushers in football last season in Jadeveon Clowney. He had a very big resurgence year. And then same thing for Denver. Edge rushers, a need in this class for them. They have a bunch of different needs, but also it's mostly on the defensive side. Let's plug one of those holes with Jadeveon Clowney and see what you can do. Another good fit for him is just staying in Cleveland. He had a resurgence in Cleveland across from Myles Garrett. Why not keep him there? Detroit, they're looking at edge rusher, very similar to Jacksonville. If you take Jadeveon Clowney in free agency, that frees up, yes, you could still partner him with a guy like Aiden Hutchinson or Thibodeau, or that opens it up if you want to go after a Kyle Hamilton, or you want to take a receiver, or you want to do something else. It gives you a lot more options if you do have that solidified edge rusher. And also with the money that you're probably going to save from letting Trey Flowers go, you can just give it right to Jadeveon Clowney. Then Miami, we saw them with this last Anthony Averett slide as well, but yeah, the Dolphins just have a lot of money for being as good of a team as they are. So to get a solidified, stud edge rusher to pair alongside that incredible interior defensive line, I just think that would be a fun team to watch. Some sneaky teams, the Chargers, they definitely could use a running mate with Joey Bosa, Nwosu being a free agent. The Giants, if they can clear up some money, this is exactly the type of edge rusher that they would want to pair alongside Ojulari, who really is more of a speed rusher. And losing Lorenzo Carter in free agency, you're going to want to replace him and hopefully get some more pressure. And that's what Jadeveon Clowney does, is passing pressure. The Chiefs, Frank Clark's probably on the way out. Melvin Ingram's probably not going to get re-signed. So Clowney going to a championship contender, getting on that D-line with Chris Jones, I think would be awesome. And then last but not least, Buffalo. They've been looking for more defensive line help. I love Ed Oliver. I love Greg Rousseau. Add a Jadeveon Clowney here. You can still cycle in Phillips and Epinesa and everybody. I just think that would be awesome to see as well. Now we got Melvin Gordon here. I think that his best two spots are staying in Denver or going to Houston. Now I'm going to talk about Denver first because it's one of those things where if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I think Denver, with a little bit better quarterback play and some other holes fixed up, they could have been a playoff team for sure. And as much as, the fantasy community wants to see this Javonte Williams breakout, Melvin Gordon had a fantastic year in Denver, and so did Javonte. So why not let them play together? This isn't a fantasy game. This is the real life. This is the real NFL. If you can get two running backs that are as good as those two looked together, why would you let that go away? Especially when the cap hits $5 to $10 million, in my opinion. And then Houston, they've been looking for a star running back. You can pay the most money to him as you look for a new identity and try to still compete and not go into a full rebuild. Then you look at the good categories. Kansas City Chiefs, we talked about it with Cordarrelle Patterson. They want a running back that can catch out of the backfield and do a lot. So I think that Melvin Gordon could fit that. The Cardinals, very similar again to Cordarrelle Patterson. Somebody who can come out of the backfield and such. Miami. The reason I like Miami for Gordon and not for Cordarrelle is because Melvin Gordon, I think, can run a lot better with not the best O-line play, when in reality, Cordarrelle's not that running back. So with Miami still trying to figure out the offensive line, but desperately needing a run game, I think Melvin Gordon could be an awesome fit for them. Then we look at the sneaky picks. If Cordarrelle Patterson does leave Atlanta, Melvin Gordon could fill that hole perfectly. Or even if you want to replace Mike Davis with Melvin Gordon and keep Cordarrelle, that would be cool. The Bills, I have them as a sneaky one because I think that Melvin Gordon would be a perfect fit for the Bills. But Singletary really did come onto his own towards the end of the season. So maybe you want to just keep and see what you have in Singletary another year. Tennessee, very similar to what I said with Cordarrelle Patterson. Can you trust Derrick Henry for years to come? Can you create a duo with him, with Melvin Gordon? There's a lot of question marks there. And then I threw the Seahawks in there because Rashad Penny's a free agent. Chris Carson, who knows if he'll play football again with that neck injury. It seems very serious. So that could be interesting if they have to move on from Chris Carson to get a guy like Melvin Gordon. Then we have Marcus Maye here, the safety from the New York Jets, dealt with some injuries, so $6 to $12 million is his range. It's not going to be too much of a long-term deal unless a team really wants to give him one. I think that one team that could do that is Detroit. Very similar to what I said about the Clowney thing. Safety's a need for a team like Detroit and some other teams we're going to talk about. So erase that need from the NFL draft and allow yourself to replace that in free agency. You get a guy like Marcus Maye to take over that safety position. You may even re-sign a guy like Trayvon Walker. That's a very solid safety combo for Detroit as they really try to retool and become back to the playoffs, hopefully next season with the money and the assets they have this year. Then you look at the Patriots. Devin McCourty is probably out of there with his age. Kyle Duggar seems like a very good, strong safety. So pairing Marcus Maye, giving him that, again, a guy who seems to be been given up on by a lot of teams due to injuries and such. I really do think he'd fit perfectly in that Devin McCourty role at free safety with Duggar on a very talented Patriots defense. Some good fits. I have the Dallas Cowboys. If they can make up the money for a guy like Marcus Maye, which would be very tough to do, pairing him with Donovan Wilson I think would be awesome to see. I think that he really could be a leader on that defense. Washington, Bobby McCain and DeShazer Everett just aren't going to get it done at free safety. But you do have a very solid, young, strong safety in Cam Curl. Marcus Maye can really help in that coverage department and be a great safety duo between him and Curl. And then same thing with Houston, as I said about Detroit. I really do like Kyle Hamilton to them, but if you get a guy like Marcus Maye, you still could take Kyle Hamilton and make a deadly duo, but it does put a Band-Aid over that position to where you don't have to waste a top pick on it. And then some sneaky guys. The Vikings, really the safety play has gone downhill these past couple years, especially at that free safety spot. Marcus Maye can fill that, and you can have an old but very solid duo with him and Harrison Smith. The 49ers, another team that just secondary has seemed like it's never quite good enough, and they're always putting more and more players out there to hope that one sticks. Marcus Maye, I think, could be one that can stick. And last but not least, the Ravens. They really just don't have any safeties, to be honest, at least in this, free agent market and everything. And I just think that this would be a perfect fit for the Ravens, as they're just a team that traditionally has had just a great secondary. Adding more secondary pieces is always going to be good for them. Last but not least, Odell Beckham Jr. And the reason I have him on this list is because I think that before the ACL injury, he was getting talked about so highly. And since then, people have wrote off Odell again. And they're just like, well, that's it. His done. His career's over. I don't see that. I see that resurgence. It was a freak injury, and it sucks. Those injuries, the ACLs, the Achilles, the MCLs, they're all horrible injuries because they really just happen on normal routes like Odell ran. But I think he'll make a full recovery, and seeing how good of a player he was in a competent offense like LA, man, would I love to see him on a team with Justin Herbert and Keenan Allen. I would love that. With Mike Williams probably hitting the free agent market, not sure if they're going to bring him back, or even if they do bring him back, they have a good amount of money, and you need more than just one weapon. Get a guy who has some of the most sure hands in the NFL and really had a career resurgence before the injury. At worst, if he's your wide receiver 3 and he loses some of the speed that he has, I just don't see that ability of his to go anywhere. I think his recovery, I think winning a Super Bowl and tasting the greatness that really was Odell Beckham in that Rams uniform, I think it's going to go a long way for him. And Miami is another one where Jalen Waddle has had tremendous success. Devontae Parker has done pretty well, but they definitely need some more receiver help. He can get paid very big. And I think you can notice a common trend with a lot of these teams. A lot of these are big cities, and that's a very big trait for Odell. I think that he wants to be in an LA, a Miami, a New York, something like that. There are some other ones there, but we'll talk about them when we get to them. But yeah, Miami, a good spot for him. I think that he would like to go live in and be around the city and the culture, but also just become possibly that wide receiver 1, at least the wide receiver 2 on a young and up-and-coming team with Tua. The Patriots, this is an awesome one just because Mac Jones seems like a very solid quarterback to get, very similar to what he had in Eli Manning in his successful years with the Giants. So to be able to come in and be that wide receiver 1 right away and lead a team, if he wants to be that number 1 again, I think New England is a great spot. I also think Vegas is a great spot, which again, another place where I think he would have a great time living and being out there in Vegas. But yeah, pairing him with Hunter Renfrow, Darren Waller, Bryan Edwards, Josh Jacobs, Derek Carr, I think that would just be a fun offensive to watch. And then last in the good categories is the Washington Commanders. Terry McLaurin is a beast, and Curtis Samuel seems pretty solid as long as he's healthy. Dyami Brown could be a very solid depth piece, but adding an Odell would really make this offense click. And if you were able to get a Mariota or somebody, I think this offense and this team would just be a lock to be at least a wild card, if not the champions of the NFC East. Then some sneaky picks. The Cardinals, AJ Green, Christian Kirk, pretty much everybody that's not Rondale Moore, Andy Isabella, or DeAndre Hopkins are free agents at the receiver department. So they need a wide receiver 2 that can be a wide receiver 1, and that was shown with the absence of D-Hop, how big of a collapse it was when D-Hop went out. Odell could step in and be a 1 if Hop went out, and Hop can be that lone receiver if Odell went out. But the problem is that if both of them are on the field, that is a scary duo for defenses, and there's really not a way you can cover that, especially because you have a speed threat in Rondale Moore as well alongside them. So I really do like that fit for Odell. The only thing that's sneaky about it is it's a division rival of the Rams. I think that he owes a lot to the Rams. I don't know if he'd really join a team in the division. As you notice, a lot of these teams are out of conference as well. Then I have the Rams as a sneaky one. I just don't know with Robert Woods being there, Van Jefferson, Cooper Kupp, the money situation just not being great. I just don't know if Odell is really going to get brought back. I think you have to choose between Odell and Woods, and Woods is going to recover quicker, so I think Odell might be on his way out. And last but not least, I had to throw it in there, the New York Giants. They can clear up cap space, getting a receiver like Odell Beckham to join, again, this Kafka and Dable offense alongside Kadarius Toney, Slayton, and Galladay. I mean, man, a reunion with New York would be something special and allow Daniel Jones to have more weapons, Saquon to be with one of his best friends in Odell Beckham, and that would just be an awesome reunion to see, and I would love to see it personally. But that's going to be it for the video. If you guys did enjoy, please be sure to leave a like. Who did I miss out on? What's a free agent that really isn't getting enough love in your opinion? And also let me know if one of your teams was on this list. Who was that player, and do you like them signing him or not? Let me know in the comment section below. But again, if you did enjoy, please be sure to leave a like and subscribe. If you didn't, that's all right. Just go ahead and refresh that page and let me know what you think about it the second time. Without further ado, that's going to be it for me. I'll see you guys in the next one.
The clock, look at the timing, better don't stop. Let it go by, no, not on my watch. I do this here on my own time. Time is money, so I did it on my own dime. Word to Bookie, yeah, that's homage, gave me game. Yeah, he taught me family ties, quick to back then, up off me.